Here's Adam Beasley with the Miami Herald and the Dolphins beat writer. Lots to talk about here about the Dolphins. So, Adam, give me your assessment, first of all, as a whole for this season.
They exceeded expectations because I thought they were going to win one, maybe two games.
Right.
And Brian Flores went out and won 5. Some would argue he ruined the plan. They were too good this year. They were too good to get Joe Burrow. I don't think he cares about that at all. He wanted to establish a culture, accountability, a competitiveness, and he wanted to change the tone of the building. And I think if you're judging him by that, it was a successful year. Now the question is, where do they go from here?
Right.
Because we were grading him on a curve this year. The losses we wouldn't hold against them. The wins we celebrated. That's no longer the case. They have tons of money. They have tons of draft picks. They have to be much better in 2020.
Talking about grading on a curve, here's my assessment of how they brought him in the top brass with the Dolphins, bringing him in saying, okay, first year, you're going to have nobody to play with. You're going to stink. If you're okay with that, we'll hire you. Second year, we're going to bring in, all the draft choices. We've got a lot of free agency money to work with. Then you're on the clock for year 3. Safe assessment?
Yeah, but he didn't buy into that. He knows that in the National Football League, coaching windows are very small. Mm-hmm. And if you have a 2-14 on your record, and say they even improved to 6-10 the year after, you're still 8 in a million. I mean, you're starting off at a very low point, and he knows that those losses can catch up to you. So he was going to go and try to win every single game that they played, and I give him credit for that because we've talked about it. The hand he was dealt wasn't fair to him. It wasn't fair to Dolphins fans. It is what it is. They made a conscious decision to reset the roster, got all their money. Keith, think about this. Their payroll was something like, I think, $125, $130 million. The Atlanta Falcons had a payroll of $250 million in 2019. So they had essentially half the roster that teams that they're actually trying to win had. Again, that's all going to change this year. But Brian Flores, you have to give him credit for taking very little and doing a lot with it.
All right, you mentioned unfair. Chad O'Shea got the boot after just one season, and he gets the boot because he wasn't productive. But given the slate, the roster that he was given, and now they're going to bring in a guy out of retirement, Chan Gailey, and a lot of people are saying, who's Chan Gailey?
Right. Well, if you're a Dolphins fan from the early 2000s, you remember him because he was here way back in the day when.
But he was in retirement. So did they coax him out?
68 years old, I think. Today might be his birthday.
Sense?
It does if you look at it through this prism. Brian Flores going into the 2019 season was going to rely very heavily on Jim Caldwell. He was going to be his Sherpa, his elder statesman, the guy who whispers in his ear, avoid this, do that. And he lost out on that opportunity because Caldwell got sick. Now I think he has that in Chan Gailey. He has a guy that's got the wounds, got the battle scars, 2 head coaching opportunities. I think he's been an offensive coordinator in 4 different towns, including this one. So as far as an organizational, structural way of improving your team, I think it's brilliant. Question is, can he still coach offense? Has he still got his fastball at age, I think, 68, I said. That's what we're going to see. Chad O'Shea, I want to say a little bit about him real quick. I don't get it from an X's and O's standpoint. They scored 25.4 points per game over the last 9 weeks of the season with an offensive line that shouldn't have been in the XFL, let alone the NFL. Running backs, guys coming off the street were running the ball for them. I think he didn't get a fair shake. I think there must be something going on behind the scenes we don't know about that explains this more. But Brian Flores clearly thought that if they're going to get their quarterback of the future, they want somebody else molding that young quarterback.
Let's go there now. Tua Tagovailoa, he was broken by college football with the hip, right? So he's coming out, by the way, tomorrow at noon. He's going to announce whether he's staying with Alabama or if he's going to enter the draft. If he enters the draft, does Miami take him at number 5? Because it would appear that he is going to be available at 5.
Well, maybe 5, maybe 4. We don't know. The Chargers are in that neighborhood, too. They're going to need a quarterback. They want to be able to sell that new building that they're going to open up this fall. Yes, I think there's a real possibility if Tua enters the draft, which, again, is not a sure thing. We don't know for certain he will. But if he's available, I think the Dolphins, assuming all the check marks are checked, all the check boxes are checked as far as his health, he goes through the combine, the doctors sign off on him. If that hip is structurally sound, if they feel like he can hold up the rigors of a 16-game NFL season, he is the best quarterback in this draft. With all apologies to Joe Burrow, who had a fantastic year, I think 7 touchdowns in the national semifinals. He's a fantastic talent. Tua is going to be a better pro, assuming he's healthy. So I think the Dolphins, it's a risk worth taking. But it is a risk. You don't know. We just watched the Eagles lose another one and done. Well, actually, this is the first time they've been one and done in the last few years. But because Carson Wentz couldn't stay healthy, because he got hurt, I know a concussion's kind of a fluky thing, but 3 years in a row now, he hasn't been able to finish a playoff game. If the Dolphins have those same concerns with Tua, they're going to have to at least think about it. Is this a guy that we can count on not only in September and October, but January and February when we're really going to need him?
Yeah, I think the Dolphins need to look at not only his physical qualities, but the intangibles. The guy is incredibly smart.
Correct.
He makes great decisions, those types of things. So Fitzpatrick, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I love this guy.
Right.
I hope they would hang on to him, certainly as a mentor to whatever young quarterback they have to bring in.
They will. Assuming he wants to play, he's going to be on the team in 2020. There's no doubt in my mind that they would bring him back. The only way he wouldn't is if something crazy happens. If Tom Brady calls Brian Flores, which I guess is now the realm of possibility because as of midnight on March 18th, Tom Brady will be a player without a team, and he's free to sign anywhere for the first time in his career. Short of that happening, I think they bring back Fitz. I think they really like his leadership. We're talking about intangibles.
Yep.
There are two reasons the Dolphins won 5 games this year, Brian Flores and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Without either one of those two guys, it would be a totally different story. Sometimes personalities just mesh really well, and those two personalities mesh very, very well. So I think that Flores would love to have Fitz back. The question is, does Fitz want to do this for a 16th time? His family still lives in Tampa. They commute in the weekends to see him. Is he ready to do that again? He loves the game. You watched, I mean, that
and he loves it here in Miami. He even said so.
He does. So I think all things considered, he'll be back. But there are still a lot of things that have to play out, including the Dolphins looking around, seeing if there's a better free agent quarterback out there.
And speaking of free agency, the Dolphins theoretically have a ton of money that they could spend in free agency. Do you think they do that? Do they go after a key player?
I think I think the days of Ndamukong Suh getting $114 million are over. What they're going to do, instead of paying one dude $19 million, they're going to try to pay 4 dudes $5 million and spread out their money that way so you can build a complete roster. Chris Greer's philosophy is not what Mike Tannenbaum's was. We need to build a 1 through 53 man roster, and to do that, we have to allocate resources, spread it out throughout the team. And I think they will. I think you're going to see a lot of expatriates, names that you know who are going to be free agents. Those tires will be kicked, and they're going to be players that we haven't even heard of and haven't even thought of that are going to be part of this team in 2020. But I think if you're a Dolphins fan and you're looking for optimism, there's this. They did the most they could with the least of their talent in 2019. Just think of what Brian Flores is going to be able to do when he actually has players.
That's what a lot of people think about. I got the wrap here. Non-Dolphin question. Tom Brady, did he see his last game yesterday as a Patriot? Real quick.
As a Patriot, yes. I think they will move on from him. I think he'll play in 2020, but it won't be in New England.
All right. Well said. Adam Beasley with the Miami Herald for us tonight. Thanks very much.
Anytime.